Everyone loves hating on Dark Souls 2, and many players say it's the easiest title due to things like life gems, clunky bosses, and the ability to make your enemies stop respawning if you have enough time. But today, I'm going to make the case for why Dark Souls 2, while still being one of my favorite titles, is actually harder than our beloved and notoriously challenging Elden Ring. Before you start hating in the comments, hear me out. But also, please do leave a comment. As we know, there are quite a few Dark Souls 2 mechanics that still trip players up today, and that make figuring out how to effectively play Dark Souls 2 much more difficult than games like Elden Ring. Specifically, things like adaptability and agility, which impact how well the player moves and how quickly they can heal. Let's be honest, a lot of players aren't out there leveling things that don't have a clear impact on DPS, stamina, or defense. Therefore, these essential attributes get overlooked most of the time. And in case you were unaware, agility is tied to how fast you use items like Estus, which is already very limited in the early game. Comparing that to Elden Ring, where your flasks runneth over if you can find enough seeds, and simply changing your build is enough to stop that fat roll, I think it's obvious that the barrier to entry is much higher in Dark Souls 2. Indeed. On top of that, the level design seems like it's meant to hinder you more than help you like it does in Dark Souls 1 or Elden Ring. The interconnectedness of Dark Souls 1 and the open world of Elden Ring let players easily explore, go back to old areas, and have a rest at a bonfire quite easily. That's in contrast to Dark Souls 2, where areas like the Iron Keep or Shrine of Amana punish poor positioning and are also filled with gank squads left and right, especially if you're playing Scholar and not Vanilla. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the combat itself. The health reduction, though disputed, is a pretty heavy nerf for players trying to get a hang of the game. And when you combine that with bad hitboxes, a challenging early game, and a need for much more controlled stamina management, it's pretty easy to see why Dark Souls 2 has a higher baseline difficulty than Elden Ring, where the sheer amount of builds, summons, and buffs mean you don't need to push through an area you're struggling with, rather you can just use the tools the game gives you to overpower the lands between.